Rebuilding begins with reflection, but not the kind of reflection that leaves you stuck in regret. It's the kind of reflection that forces you to confront the truth, the unpolished, unfiltered truth about where you've been, what you've endured, and the choices you've made. There is power in pausing long enough to take inventory of your life. You can't rebuild what you won't acknowledge. Too often, people rush ahead, chasing new beginnings while carrying the weight of old wounds. But you cannot build something strong on a foundation that hasn't been cleared. Let the past year speak to you. Let the lessons rise from the moments that hurt, from the failures that shook you, and from the victories that seemed too small to celebrate. Everything that happened has something to teach you. The question is, are you willing to listen? Reflection requires humility. It's not about blaming others or condemning yourself. It's about honesty. And sometimes honesty can feel uncomfortable. But if you truly want to rebuild, you must be willing to stand in front of the mirror of your experiences and see yourself clearly, not as a victim, not as a failure, but as a work in progress. Release what needs to go. There are things you've been carrying that were only meant to be temporary. Some disappointments have overstayed their welcome. Some burdens have outlived their usefulness. Growth demands release. You cannot hold on to the pain of yesterday and expect to embrace the possibilities of tomorrow. Releasing doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean pretending it didn't happen. It means you stop letting it define you. The weight that has been pressing on your spirit, the unforgiveness, the resentment, the shame, it's time to lay it down. There is freedom in release, but you have to choose it. No one can do it for you. The new year doesn't automatically reset your heart. Turning the page on a calendar won't turn the page on your life unless you make the decision to do so. You have the authority to declare that some things will not follow you into 2025. You have the power to speak to the chains that have held you and tell them their time is up. Rebuilding starts with that decision, the decision to release, to let go, and to trust that what lies ahead is greater than what lies behind. This is not the end of your story. Every piece of rubble in your life can become part of the foundation you are about to lay. Nothing is wasted. God has a way of using the very things that tried to break you to strengthen you. But first you must reflect. You must make peace with the pieces and trust that what's coming is worth the work it will take to get there. Rebuilding starts now, but it starts with you, and it starts with the courage to reflect and release. Your life will only rise to the level of your thinking. If your mind stays bound, your life will stay small. You cannot rebuild on the outside until you renew the inside. The greatest battles you will fight in this new season won't be with the people around you, but with the thoughts within you. What you think about yourself, what you believe about your future, and how you perceive your past will either launch you forward or hold you hostage. It's time to renew your mind. That means evicting the lies that have taken up residence. Lies that whisper you aren't good enough, smart enough, or worthy enough to step into something greater. Those thoughts have lived rent-free in your head for far too long. You've entertained them, you've rehearsed them, but they've done nothing but steal your confidence and shrink your vision. The future you desire won't be built by those old patterns of thought. If you want to see transformation in your life, it has to begin with a shift in your thinking. Stop talking yourself out of opportunities. Stop disqualifying yourself before the race even starts. Too many people sabotage their own success because they convince themselves that they can't handle what's next. But if God brought the opportunity to you, He's already placed the ability within you. Stop waiting for someone else to affirm what God has already declared. Start aligning your thoughts with His truth. You weren't created to play small. There's more in you, more creativity, more strength, more vision, but it can only be unlocked when you renew your mindset. Renewing your mind means challenging every thought that doesn't line up with the future you're stepping into. It means speaking life over yourself, even when you don't feel it yet. It means declaring victory, even while you see a struggle. Every thought you allow to take root will bear fruit in your life. Negative thoughts produce fear and doubt. Positive, faith-filled thoughts produce courage and resilience. What kind of harvest do you want in 2025? Because the seeds are being planted in your mind right now. You cannot afford to think small in this season. Small thinking will rob you of destiny. It will have you settling for less when greater is available. Renew your mind by filling it with the right things. Surround yourself with voices that uplift and challenge you. Immerse yourself in environments that stretch your vision. Read things that expand your understanding. The mind is like a garden. Whatever you plant, you will harvest. You can't expect a fruitful life if you're planting weeds of doubt, insecurity, and fear. Until you are not stuck. The walls that seem to surround you are made of the thoughts you built over time. And just as they were built, they can be torn down. Tear down the walls of doubt brick by brick. Replace them with thoughts that elevate and empower you. Renew your mind daily and watch how your life begins to transform from the inside out. Purpose is the fire that keeps you going when everything else tells you to quit. It's the anchor that holds you steady when storms rage around you. Without purpose, you drift. Without purpose, you chase after things that were never meant to satisfy you. But when you are aligned with your purpose, there is a strength that rises in you, a determination that refuses to be silenced. You were created for more than mere existence. There is something on the inside of you that the world needs, but it won't manifest until you reconnect with the reason you were put here. Purpose is not lost, it's just buried. Buried beneath the weight of disappointment, buried under the rubble of past mistakes. But just because it's buried doesn't mean it's gone. It's still there waiting for you to dig again. Life has a way of piling distractions, detours, and delays on top of our calling, but purpose has a voice. And even if it's been silenced for a season, it will find a way to whisper to you again. Listen closely. That stirring in your spirit, that desire for more, that sense that there is something greater ahead, this purpose calling your name. This is not the time to shrink back. This is the time to fan the flame. Reignite the fire within you by remembering why you started in the first place. Go back to the moments when you felt most alive, the moments when you were certain you were doing exactly what you were created to do. Purpose leaves clues. It's in the things that break your heart, the passions you can't shake, and the visions that won't let you sleep at night. Stop ignoring the signs. Stop silencing the voice that's been pushing you toward more. The longer you run from it, the more restless you'll become. Rebuilding in this season means reconnecting with the passion that fuels you. Purpose doesn't bow to convenience. It doesn't wait for perfect conditions. It shows up in the middle of chaos and demands that you rise to the occasion. Stop waiting for everything to make sense before you move forward. Purpose requires faith, to step even when you can't see the whole staircase, the faith to trust that every step you take is guiding you closer to destiny. The world doesn't need another copy, it needs the authentic version of you. There are people tied to your purpose. There are lives waiting to be impacted by your obedience. Your gift is not just for you, it's for everyone connected to your assignment. Reignite your passion, realign with your calling, and refuse to let fear hold you back. Purpose is powerful, but it requires pursuit. You won't stumble into it by accident. You have to chase it with everything you have. This year, don't settle for surface level living. Go deep. Dig until you find what sets your soul on fire. Purpose is calling. It's time to answer. Your life is shaped by the habits you build in the quiet moments when no one is watching. The small things you do every day are the bricks that construct the future you're stepping into. Too often, people are waiting for a big break, a miraculous shift, or some grand opportunity to fall into their lap, but real transformation happens in the details and the discipline of daily habits. What you consistently do will either push you toward destiny or pull you further away from it. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. You can have the most inspiring vision board, the clearest goals, and the biggest dreams. But if your habits contradict them, you'll stay stuck in the same cycle year after year. A new season requires new habits. You can't walk into 2025 with the same routines that kept you bound in 2024. If you want to see change, you have to build it brick by brick, day by day. The power isn't just in what you do occasionally, it's in what you do consistently. Consistency will take you further than talent. It will open doors that passion alone can't sustain. It's not the sprint that changes your life, but the daily walk, the decision to show up, even when you don't feel like it, even when the results aren't visible yet. The seeds you plant in the unseen moments will eventually produce a harvest. But you can't reap what you haven't sown. This is the time to evaluate your habits. What are you feeding your mind? What are you allowing into your spirit? What are you doing with your time? Your habits are either reinforcing the future you desire or building barriers that block you from reaching it. Stop making excuses for the patterns that are keeping you from growth. Stop blaming circumstances for habits you refuse to confront. If you want to change your life, you have to start with the small decisions that shape each day. Habits are built through intention, not accident. No one drifts into greatness. No one stumbles into consistency. You have to make the decision to prioritize the things that align with your vision. That might mean waking up earlier to pray, staying up later to work on your craft, cutting off distractions, or saying no to things that drain your energy. It's not easy, but the reward is worth the sacrifice. Discipline now creates freedom later. Don't despise the small beginnings. The habits you start today may seem insignificant, but over time they will accumulate. A single drop of water may not seem powerful, but over time it can carve canyons. Likewise, the small unseen habits you cultivate now will carve out the life you desire. You are building something with every action, every thought, and every decision. Make sure the habits you create are laying the foundation for the life you've been called to live. The people around you are shaping your future, whether you realize it or not. Who you walk with will influence how far you go. There is no such thing as neutral company. The people in your circle are either pushing you forward or pulling you back. If you're serious about rebuilding in this season, you have to take inventory of the voices you're allowing to speak into your life. Some connections were only meant for a chapter, but you've been trying to carry them through the whole book. It's time to evaluate your relationships and make room for the right people. You cannot rebuild in isolation. Every great move of God in your life will be connected to the right people who see beyond your present struggles and speak to the greatness inside you. But just as the right people can unlock your potential, the wrong people can delay your progress. There are relationships that drain you, conversations that diminish your faith, and connections that keep you comfortable when you were meant to grow. You cannot afford to carry dead weight into this next season. Growth often requires separation. Don't be afraid to let go of relationships that no longer align with where you're headed. It doesn't mean you don't love them. It doesn't mean you wish them harm, but destiny demands that you protect your environment. If you're going to build something new, you need people around you who understand the vision, people who challenge you to rise, who hold you accountable, and who celebrate the progress you make along the way. Surround yourself with people who stir your spirit. Find those who encourage you when you feel weary, who remind you of your purpose when you forget, and who refuse to let you settle for less than what you were created for. These are the relationships that will fuel your rebuilding process. Sometimes the greatest gift you can receive is a person who won't let you quit, someone who looks you in the eye and says, I see more in you than this. Don't confuse comfort with connection. Just because someone feels familiar doesn't mean they're helping you grow. Sometimes the people you've known the longest are the ones most resistant to your transformation. It's not because they don't care. It's because your growth challenges the version of you they've always known. But you can't stay small to make others comfortable. True relationships will make space for your growth and celebrate your evolution. Rebuilding requires intentional relationships. Start praying for divine connections, people whose wisdom can guide you, whose courage can inspire you, and whose faith can stretch you. Be open to new relationships, even if they don't look like what you expected. God often sends the right people in unexpected ways. You are not meant to do this alone. Rebuilding takes community, and the right people will help you reach heights you could never achieve by yourself. Choose your circle carefully, because who you walk with will determine how far you can go. Faith is the foundation of everything you are building. Without it, your vision remains fragile and your steps uncertain. Rebuilding your life requires more than just effort, it demands belief. Belief that something greater is coming, belief that what's ahead is stronger than what's behind, and belief that even in the waiting, something is shifting in your favor. Faith isn't passive, it's the fuel that drives you forward when evidence hasn't yet appeared. It's the assurance that what you're working toward will manifest, even if all you have right now is the blueprint in your heart. You cannot build if you are constantly doubting the process. Doubt is the enemy of progress. It will talk you out of your dreams and convince you to abandon the very thing you prayed for. This is the year to reaffirm your faith, not just in what you can see, but in the unseen work happening beneath the surface. Just because it hasn't come to pass yet doesn't mean it's not in motion. There are roots growing deep that you cannot perceive, and if you give up now, you risk forfeiting the harvest that was just about to break through. Faith speaks when circumstances are silent. It declares victory before the battle is won. It holds on to hope when everything around you suggests otherwise. The words you speak over yourself in this season are critical. Stop rehearsing failure, stop replaying fear, and start speaking life into your situation. There is power in your declaration. Speak to the broken places and call them whole. Speak to the empty areas and declare them filled. Faith isn't denial, it's seeing the obstacle and still believing the outcome will shift in your favor. Rebuilding isn't just about physical work, it's spiritual. Your spirit must rise before your circumstances do. You have to see yourself healed, restored, and thriving long before the evidence appears. Hold on to the vision and refuse to let go no matter how long it takes. Faith isn't about instant gratification. Sometimes the greatest victories are born from seasons of endurance. Don't let impatience rob you of the miracle in motion. Trust the process. Trust that even in the delay, something is being developed in you. What you are building isn't just for today, it's for the future. And the strength you are gaining through this process will sustain you in ways you can't yet comprehend. Faith prepares you. It positions you. It molds you into the person who can handle the weight of the blessing that's coming. What you are asking for requires a stronger, wiser, more resilient version of yourself, and that version is being shaped right now. Hold the vision close to your heart and guard it with everything you have. When doubt tries to creep in, push it back with faith. When fear whispers in the night, silence it with the promises spoken over your life. You are not rebuilding alone, heaven is backing you. Stand firm, believe boldly, and step forward knowing that what's ahead is far greater than anything you've left behind.